statements.
Incidentally,
the voluntary statements were denial, complete denial of the charges.
Those are
the statements that they made voluntarily, with the charge put to them. They denied the charges. But when the confessions were sought to be tendered, I objected because they didn't comply with the judge's rules. They didn't comply with the procedures that the police should have followed before taking the confessions.
For
example, in one of them, there was no independent witness.
Independent witness.
When I looked at it, I kind of thought that was their luck. And for the other one, I believe another omission also, another lapse in the procedure of taking the statement. I believe it was the jurat, absence of the jurat. That means that if somebody makes a statement in the local language, if it is recorded, you have to say that it has been read over and they accept it.
The illiteracy protection.
The illiteracy, yeah, exactly.
We would come to how the judges dealt with that.
Yes.
But you raised the issue of the opinion of the Ministry of Justice. Are you suggesting, therefore, that the AG chambers ought to have known at first brush that there was no case against these individuals?
Well, I'm not suggesting, I'm saying that they ought to, because they're lawyers like myself. But I also know that they had challenges. They had difficulties, shall I say, which former Solicitor General enumerated, I believe, from the perspective of somebody who had been there all his practice. And sometimes, well, we understand that sometimes an opinion is given that there is no case, but yet that would be overruled by the DPP, for example.
And we have seen that example in the Babu Jangha scenario.
Yes, there's also Hamadi Sow's case also. That happened also. In fact, in Hamadi Sow's case, they had come to court and on several occasions said that they were going to withdraw the matter, but they never did. About 2 years, I think.
So let's
go back. Yes.
Let's go back to the Babu Jangha case. How was the matter disposed of in view of the defects that you were able to identify on those cautionary statements?
I
will take both cases together.
Okay, proceed.
For different reasons, during the voir dire, the statements were rejected. Leaving zero evidence against them. We have not even come to the point of prima facie case. Yet the General Court Martial convicted them of concealment of treason, both counts, and sentenced them to 10 years each.
Your mic,
let's try to understand this. What was the initial charge in these two cases?
te tu njëlbeen la lan lañ leen njëkkoon a tuumaal ci ñaari kees yi.
They were charged among the big group, but the two were my clients, concealment of treason.
ñoom nag dañ leen charge ñoo ci groupe gu mag waaye ñoom ñaari clientam yi li leen tuumaaloon moo nekk ni dañ noppee woon muqutoo goo xam ne mu ngi jëm ci wàlli suufu nguur.
So the initial charge was concealment of treason.
Two counts, yeah.
And they were convicted for concealment of treason, even though there was no admitted evidence against them.
Mu mel ni lañ leen tuumaal yoon daf leen daan ci ne dañ yëgoon li nga xam ne mu ngi xew ci wàlli suufu nguur ba pare waxuñu ko digal nag amuñ yeneeni bunta ci ñoom waaye bunta bi moom ci la leen yoon daan.
No other witness mentioned their name even.
amul beneen seede sax boo xam ne tudd na seen.
That is why I said zero evidence.
loolu moo tax ma ne daal amatuñ benn firnde seen kaw.
I mean, that is a serious travesty of justice. Was the matter appealed?
loolu nag yaa teggi luwaa bu métti la ndax d'appelaat nañ ko.
Yes, we filed appeals.
waaw dal di woon nañu bind nag benn d'appel.
We couldn't get anywhere.
mënuñu na mujjee fenn.
Because the record of proceedings were required.
ndek li nga xam ne mooy tëddali ni nga xam ne mooy jëm si wàllu doxali ni code bi sàkku woon nañ ko.
And we couldn't get the clerks to bring it forward.
tey mënuñu woon a gis clerc yi pour indi ko.
Counsel don't ask me one thing after another, and one of my senior counsels in the case once said to me, Nene, why can't you leave this case? Leave there to drop the appeal.
But that has serious constitutional implications, because here is a person who is being denied justice. The person is being denied access to the courts because you can only access your appeal through the record, and there is no record.
loolu nag dafa mel ni yaaxal na nit ki li nga xam ne moo di yelleefam ci wàlli àtte ci yooni dëgg boo xam ne moom lañ ko war a jox ndaxte nit ki doo ko mën a àtte ci yoon te amuloo li nga xam ne moo di record si aju ci wàlli mbiram.
We wrote to the court martial. We did everything we could to have the records, but they were never forthcoming.
bind nañ ci côté soldat yi bind nañ lu ne rek pour rek waaye mujjewu daal sottal.
That is really serious.
I agree entirely.
And the Hamidou Sow case, what was the situation? You said the state promised consistently that they were going to withdraw this case.
Yes.
And 2 years down the line, what happened?
When they didn't, they began prosecution of the matter, called witnesses, and eventually it took many years. In fact, the others had settled for their fate, having been convicted of the court martial and in the other case, and he went on going to court until, I believe, 7 years, 4 months before judgment was delivered. It went through many judges. Suffered enormous delays.
Court yu bari tardé yu bari lu dem ci juroom ñaari at ba mu jégi dal ñu daldi agalé.
Enormous delays.
7.5 years of pre-trial detention.
In fact,
juroom ñaari at ak dara yo xamné ñu ngi ci mbiram te atteguñ.
In fact, after the conviction, he was convicted, and the sentence was 7 years, 6 months. He had done 7 years, 4 months. And he's my kal, so and cham. So I said, Hamadi, go lie down for 2 months and you're out. Go drink some so and you're out. The relief on his face that okay, I'm convicted, but I'm getting out in 2 months.
So the sentence was 7 years, 6 months, and he had already
time served, minus time served,
léegi juróom ñaari at ak juróom benn weer lañ ko tëj waaye fekk tëdd na fa ba pare juróom ñaari at ak ñeenti weer.
His trial was the last to finish, but he was the first to be out.
Atem nak moy bi mujjé way na mo mujj ñëk génn tamit.
Last in, first out.
Yes. He joked and said to me, at least I was getting out every so often, coming to court for fresh air. But it's not funny, but sometimes you have to make light of such.
The violations that happened during those trials are quite extraordinary. We have heard from a witness who testified that he was told that, well, nothing was going to happen with him. There was no case against him. He was going to be released. And the judge made similar pronouncements that, oh, for you, as for you, we have nothing. The judge received a telephone call. The judge stood down. They resumed, and he was sentenced to 25 years in prison.
Mbiri ya hamlu wagi nak nekkoon na loo xam ne mu ngi doon dox ndax amoon na waajoo xam ne àttekat bi wax na ko ne amuñ dara la yoon teg dinañ la bàyyi ñu wéralal ko ko waaye ci ab diir rek àttekat bi dal di dellu si waat ñu dal di ko tëj. Yes,
and I have another similar example. In the case of the GPU, Gambia Press Union executive. In the judgment, Emil Ture was convicted, all of them convicted. But in his case, the judge admitted that there was no prima facie case, but said he failed to help the NIA with the investigations. He failed to cooperate.
And that is a basis for conviction of the crime charge?
Yes. He wasn't going to let any of them go free. That was the point. Only one was, I believe that was Saidi Khan. Yes. After the prosecution closed their case, there was no case against him, so he was out. He was a photographer, I believe. But the other members, executive members of the GPO convicted.
We also understood that in the Tamsir Jase case and others, the court admitted the statement of Aliu Job, as evidence after it conceded that it was obtained involuntarily. Would things like this happen in these types of cases?
That particular one hasn't happened with me because I would remind the judge. My experience.
In fact, Amnesty International they have it captured here, and it says Amnesty International had similar concerns during the course of the treason trial when one of the accused, Ali Job, made a statement to the investigation panel during the pre-trial detention, claiming that another defendant, Tamsir Jase, had aided and escorted Nur Cham, prompting Jase's arrest. I would translate this, I will interpret this later. The defense counsel challenged the voluntary nature of Job's statement, claiming that it had been obtained illegally under conditions of torture and therefore was inadmissible as evidence. The court agreed with the defense counsel about the involuntary nature of the statement, but allowed the statement to be considered in court as evidence in violation of fair trial standards.
Live from Banjul, this is GRTS News at 1300 hours, broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. In the headlines, government begins its COVID-19 vaccination program, inoculating the elderly and vulnerable groups across vaccination centers in the country. The first ordinary session of Parliament in the 2021 legislative year on Monday continued, with Justice Minister tabling the 2021 election bill before deputies. The state wraps up its cross-examination in the ongoing alleged murder trial involving the former junta member Yankuba Toure. In sports, the Gambia Football Federation, with support from government, extend the contract of the National Scorpions coach Tom Senfi for 5 years. In the internationals, global pressure mounts on Miami's junta, with service chiefs of dozen countries, including the US and UK, condemning Saturday's massacre of at least 114 people in the town of Yangon. These and many other stories coming ahead in the next 45 minutes, and thank you for joining us. Many thanks for joining GRTS News with me, Babu Cham. We begin this edition of the bulletin with the National Assembly, where the first ordinary session of Parliament in the 2021 legislative year on Monday continued with the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Dauda Jallow, tabling the 2021 election bill before deputies. Uminjai was following proceedings of the legislative process and files in this report.
Proceedings at the National Assembly chambers kicked off with the Attorney General and Minister of Justice moving a motion before deputies for the second reading of the 2021 elections bill. Minister Jallow outlined the objectives of the bill, which primarily details provisions for free, fair and transparent elections, as well as consideration of electorate needs and aspirations.
The bill seeks to repeal the Elections Act Cap 301 and to enact a new Elections Act in line with the best practices to achieve the cardinal principles of free and fair elections in the Gambia. This bill has taken cognizance of the fact that electoral laws conform or must conform to the need and aspirations of the electorates in a true democratic society for the full participation of all eligible citizens through casting of votes.
Deputies swiftly moved and seconded the bill before opening a debate on its merits and principles. Several lawmakers questioned the late delivery of the bill, which they have long awaited, while others appealed for reforms in the voting process, introducing a simple ballot box and papers away from the old norm, which is expensive and resource-intensive.
This is a bill that was long awaited. Since the changes, all Gambians are waiting for this bill. Why so late? What are the reasons? And what actually the bill is seeking is the repeal of the Election Act.
This assembly has been awaiting for such a bill before it. But for me, I believe that it should have been predicated by a new constitution that would have informed what is in this bill. We are talking about changes. And there is a tradition that Gambia is clinging onto. But for me, I cannot see any justification. These ballot tokens, they're claiming that this is Gambia, this is distinctly Gambian. And Gambians are priding themselves with that. But the norm around the world is ballot boxes and ballot papers. It's cheaper and easier.
The inclusion of diaspora Gambians in the electoral process also took center stage in the parliamentary debate on the election bill, as deputies highlighted the importance of their participation.
We're all aware that the diasporans plays an important role in the socio-economic development of this country. If you look at their contribution towards our GDP, their contributions towards our development agenda, their contributions is huge. Therefore, giving them an opportunity to have an say in the way the country would be run, giving them an opportunity to have a chance to take part in elections in this country is a welcoming news.
Lawmakers also discussed the voter registration, highlighting the need for the election body to thoroughly look at the process and support the registration of all eligible voters. A raft of issues shaped the debates on the election bill, as deputies forwarded divergent views on the document, which will essentially guide the 2021 presidential elections.
Everybody is entitled to your opinion. If others are saying that ballot paper is better to ballot token, yes. If you have that at the back of your mind, come out so that there will be rooms for more sensitization, more rooms for sensitization.
The demarcation of constituencies was well noted by some lawmakers amid efforts to avoid the cumbersome work faced by election officials. After an intensive scrutiny of the 2021 election bill, the mover of the motion, Minister Jallo, responded to some of the issues raised by lawmakers, who consequently referred the document to the Assembly Business Committee for consideration. Ominjai, GRTS.
As government begins its COVID-19 vaccination program, inoculating the elderly and vulnerable groups across designated vaccination centers, GRTS samples the opinions of stakeholders at various inoculation sites within the Kanifi municipality. Fatu Elika Mulusi picks up the rest of this vaccination program in this space.
This medium has been covering the COVID-19 since its first case was recorded in March 2020. And until yesterday, when the health minister announced the Gambia's first case of the virus, it has gotten even worse. It became a usual coverage thereafter from the number of cases the country continues to record on a daily basis.
To start with, there is no new case or new confirmed case in the Gambia.
The fourth case is still receiving treatment and his condition remains stable. The 5 new cases have been taken to join him at the government treatment center. Currently, the country has 6 active cases.
To how businesses, schools, and the economy continue to reel from the devastating impact of the virus, the dynamics became broad and unpredictable. 1 year down the lane, the Gambia has registered 153 deaths, over 4,360 recoveries, and 4,939 confirmed cases as of March 2021. This is not an ordinary year in fighting the virus. A second wave has befallen nations, but scientists have worked round the clock to make what takes a decade to develop, a vaccine. The AstraZeneca vaccine became the most used after months of trials and experiments. The WHO has declared it safe and secure. Since then, developed countries have done their best to secure as many doses as they could. With the many assumptions surrounding its making, the Gambia joins few African nations that have secured the jobs with support from international partners.
We have so far covered 95% of all the health facility staff, both public and private. And we have only few pockets of private that we are trying to finish up today. And we've also seen a considerable number of people with age 65 and above, and those with hypertension and diabetes. We call them comorbidity, in the individuals.
The exercise is already underway across all 7 regions, targeting priority groups involving the elderly and frontline health workers. We're here at the Bakau Health Clinic, where, of course, the inoculation exercise is being held for the older people and, of course, some of the priority groups that they've identified. Those living around this area have the opportunity to come here and get inoculated. And I can see that the health officer in charge is already monitoring the exercise here with some of the public health officials. And I'll just ask her, Ma, tell us, how has it been unfolding since you started?
Yeah, since we've started, many people have been coming. They have been coming. All the staffs of the facility also took their vaccines, and also our neighbors, and many people came as far as from Kotu, Fajara. They all came to take their vaccines. So we haven't had any problem since we started, and there are no side effects recorded. All the patients waited for their time. After 15 minutes, they left. But we didn't record anybody who complained of any side effects since we started.
The look here doesn't seem worrying as people wait for their turn to get the job. Some told us that they have been waiting for the whole time just to live this experience.
How do you feel after taking the vaccine?
I feel very, very fine. There's nothing absolutely.
Okay. And while others patiently wait for their turn,
You're almost going to take it now. How do you feel?
I'm almost going to take it now, definitely.
How do you feel?
I feel fine. I feel happy.
the joy of finally getting the dose means a lot to this group, most of whom are beyond 60 years as recommended.
So the age here is 73 years.
The Bakau Health Center is one of the centers offering the vaccine across the Kanifing municipality. The Sarakuna Health Center is also hard on the exercise.
It's not that painful, to be honest, People are just exaggerating it.
As officials patiently wait for the public to get their part of the jobs, the turnout here for the past 2 days was massive. The healthcare workers are doing their part in making sure everything goes orderly, says the officer in charge, David Day.
If you notice, there are 3 forms available right now. 2 of the forms stays with the health center, and whosoever we vaccinate, they are going to go with their own form, which is the card. Then at the end of the day, we are going to gather all the form, we tally it, and we are going to send it to the regional office, and then they will send it to the national data base, and everything is going to be inputted there. So during the time for the second dose, they are going to be informed as we were told.
We also witnessed some healthcare officers get vaccinated, and for them it is a must experience exercise as seen in other parts of the world. While some countries rethink their decision of securing the vaccines, others are very willing to get their people inoculated. The WHO's stance on the vaccines remain as the ultimate solution to fighting the deadly virus, which until now has infected over 120 million and killed over 2 million others. Well, taking the vaccine does not mean that you're automatically immune against the virus. It takes days and weeks before the body starts reacting to its contents. And so health officials have advised that people should continue wearing their face masks, continue observing the precautionary measures, which also include washing hands and keeping away from people, that is to say, crowds. And with that, it is hoped that the world's fight against this deadly pandemic will soon come to pass. For GRTS News, Fatu Elika Mulushi.
From that report by GRTS Fatu Elika Mulushi, we earlier expanded the conversation with Mr. Mbainjai, Senior Disease Surveillance Officer at the Ministry of Health, on the process of the COVID-19 vaccination exercise, and here is an excerpt.
The number of cases the country continues to rise on a daily basis.
Start with, there is no new case. How many doses do we have in this country, and how good is it?
Yeah, currently we have about 51,000 doses in the country. And then, as we all know, the COVID-19 vaccine is safe. We are having AstraZeneca vaccine in the country, and then it's very, very safe. There were some issues that the EU Commission definitely raised, MCA, but like they later on turn a U-turn, and then now the vaccine is safe. There were some issues that they just realized that, like some clotting, which was not as a result of the vaccine. And now even in Europe now, they're trying to restrict the exportation of the vaccine just to ensure that like they have the adequate number of doses for their population.
For their population. Okay, how will the inoculation exercise be conducted, and will there be a second dose?
Yeah, the inoculation exercise is being conducted across the country in all the public health facilities and some private health facilities that have cold chain system. Cold chain system is a system whereby the vaccines are stored to be able to make them safe, so that they are not destroyed. So it's across the country, and then like we're definitely giving out people that are definitely health workers, and then those that are within age 65 and above, and those with pre-existing health conditions. So there will be a second dose after the first round, and we're giving an appointment of 8 weeks interval, because according to WHO, the best impact of the vaccine will be felt when you have an interval of 8 to 12 weeks. Although between 4 to 12 weeks also is recommended, but the best outcome would be when you give it after 8 weeks of the first dose.
Well, we do understand that the dose is for the people who are above 65 years, but we've seen other people who have which different age brackets actually getting inoculated, and people like people from the KMC, I've seen people from different institutions getting inoculated, which different age brackets are in that institution. How is that going on?
Yeah, different age brackets are there, but they may be having pre-existing health conditions. You may be young, but you are living with diabetes. You may be young, you're having hypertension. You may be a security personnel, and you have some of these pre-existing health conditions. So that's why we're seeing that like across the community, we are vaccinating different age groups because they fall under the category of those with pre-existing health conditions.
Okay, what happens to those who are already infected and did not fall in any of the priority categories?
Yeah, if they do not fall under any of the priority categories, we still asking them to wait until their turn is up, because like if you get infected, we have not yet gotten proven how much protection you have, but we are sure that like you have a little bit of immunity against the disease. So maybe around within a period of 6 months or so. But like it's not yet it's not scientifically proven yet. But with asking them if you are infected and you do not fall under the category of the priority groups, you still wait until your turn is due.
Your turn is due. Okay. Is the cost for COVID-19 treatment free? And if there's an exception, why?
Yeah, the cost, the treatment is free. The only thing that we're charging is like testing fees for those that are traveling.
Okay.
Okay. For example, like if I am not traveling and I feel like I'm not feeling well, and I want to do a test, it's free of charge for me as well. But if you are traveling and you want to get the test for traveling purposes, then you definitely need to pay a token fee. And then in the Gambia here, we have the lowest tariff across the sub-region. And then we only charging about $50, so that's about 2,500. And other countries around us are charging up to $80, $100 and the like.
Okay.
But the Gambia is a pretty cheap cost for testing.
Testing. Okay. What message would you want to share with the public as government rolls out this vaccination program?
Yeah, what I want to pass is like let people come out. Those within the priority group, they should come and get the vaccine. It's free of charge and it's safe for everybody. And then like we definitely want to make sure that like we do not waste the vaccine. Let people come out. If the vaccines are not those within the priority groups, if they do not come out, then the vaccines will definitely be lying down there without being wasted. So we are advising people to come out to the health facilities. It's free of charge, it's safe, and then like they definitely need to come and then get vaccinated. And it's as the president said, it's as easy as drinking water. And then also like we definitely want to try to move also, because we've seen a little bit low turnout, and the vaccine self-life is very short. To avoid it getting expired and then also wasted in the health facilities, if the groups do not come out, then we definitely move into the next priority group, so that like we exhaust the vaccine before they get expired.
Okay.
So that we get the number that we target for the first dose, and then so that during the second dose also we'll get.
Was Mr. Mbainjai, Senior Disease Surveillance Officer at the Ministry of Health, on the ongoing COVID-19 inoculation exercise by government with support from its development partners. Let's now turn to legal matters and head to the High Court in Banjul, where the state on Monday wrapped up their cross-examination in the ongoing alleged murder trial involving the former junta member Yankuba Toure, who is being tried on a murder charge for his alleged participation in the murder of former junta finance minister Usman Koro Sise. Under cross-examination, Toure said there was no directive from the then chairman of the military council to stop junta members visiting the state house at night, even when he was out of the country. He denied taking part in the murder of Usman Koro Sise at his residence the day the chairman of the council was traveling. Meanwhile, the defense has informed the court of their intention to call their final witness, who is currently out of the jurisdiction. Sittings of the 22nd session of the Trade Commission has on Monday continued with former president of the Gambia Bar Association, Sheriff Tambedu, appearing to testify on the legal system during time of the previous president. As Sinebujan reports, the witness underscored total disregard for practicing lawyers by the previous administration and how the state utilized mercenary judges against a legal system that was meant to serve the people.
Has appeared before the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, lawyer Sheriff Marie Tambedu, the latest witness to appear before the TRRC, testified on the Gambia's legal system under former President Jammeh and how he inferred in judicial matters, among others.
Instructions came from Jammeh. Now, Jammeh did not talk to the judges directly. Jammeh spoke to people who spoke to these judges. He gave instructions. Who carried out those instructions to those judges? I have seen magistrates who I did not believe passed the bar. Well, that is very, very serious, because they were here learning on the job. And we had a situation where there was a chief justice who controlled the number of magistrates, and the word was, I cannot verify it, that their judgments, he he wrote the judgments, or he gave advice as to how the judgments were to be written.
Counsel Tambedu informed the commission that the former Gambian leader had enablers in the country's judicial system and the Ministry of Justice. He further revealed that the Gambia Bar Association was compromised by Jammeh to the extent of him acquainting himself with the country's criminal code, thus undermining legal procedures.
We were scheduled to have a discussion about a protest or boycott that the bar had, was going to take. Well, so as soon as I arrived, I saw plainclothes men around the courthouse, and I recognized one or two of them as belonging or working for the NIA. Then my colleague, Lamin Jobate, came by me and whispered in my ear and said, "Do not have this meeting. If you have this meeting, you are all going to be arrested." I informed the few that were there, and we discussed the matter and decided the best course of action was to disperse.
Lawyer Tambedu testified that the Gambia Bar Association met once under Jammeh's regime. He informed the commission about threats he and his wife received as a result of what he described as his participation in bringing Jammeh down after disputed December 2016 presidential election results.
He told me he had had rumors that certain members were being targeted, including me. Jammeh had plans to eliminate certain people, and he discussed with me about how best to take precautions. And I told him I was not leaving the country, I was going to stay. I had made arrangements for a safe place to stay. I arranged for my family, my mother. I'm sorry, this is difficult for me.
I'm sorry, Mr. Tambedu.
Yeah.
Stop.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I made arrangements for my family to leave. And I said I wasn't going.
He cited a list bearing names of individuals, including his, who were meant to be eliminated. He added, "Sittings continue." Zainab Jan for GRTS News.
The National Petroleum Office of Mali in the Gambia for a two-day official visit to their Gambia counterpart, the Public Utility Regulatory Authority, PURA. The visit is meant to strengthen institutional partnership and best practice, harmonize standards, address non-technical barriers to trade and market information, as well as enhance joint recognition of vehicle inspection certificate. Mood Bajan picks up the rest of that story.
Operating under the supervision of the Ministry of Hydrocarbons, Mali's Director General of National Petroleum Office, ONAP, Issa Kondo, leads a team of petroleum experts on a visit to the Gambia. In the words of Solo Sima, the Acting Director General of Public Utility Regulatory Authority, PURA, the engagement is essential in enhancing the growing petroleum trade between Mali and the Gambia.
As you may be aware,
Comme vous êtes au courant,
PURA took up the regulation of downstream petroleum,
PURA a pris le développement du pétrole en Gambie,
which includes the issuance of petroleum re-export licenses in 2017. Since the commencement of issuance of petroleum re-export license in 2017,
depuis le commencement de ces donations de licences,
the authorities saw a significant growth within this segment of the value chain, with more than 15 re-export licenses issued and counting. The main country of destination
le pays qui a le plus d'avantages
has been Mali,
est le Mali,
with considerable volumes,
avec un volume considérable,
enhancing trade significantly between the two countries.
Equally speaking, at the PURA head office, Issa Kondo of ONAP said that they are in town to better the petroleum trade facilities and partnership between the two countries. This, he hopes, will iron out several things, such as transport challenges faced by transporters.
C'est dans ce cas que nous sommes là aujourd'hui.
It's in that manner that we are here today. We are here to rebuild, to go ahead beyond the difficulties.
Comment développer les relations entre les deux pays.
The relation between the two countries. ONAP is a structure that helps the operators.
Avant même d'atteindre la Gambie, nos opérateurs sont obligés de traverser le Sénégal.
Before even coming to the Gambia, we have to pass through Senegal, and there was some difficulties to have that.
Et au Mali également, pour tous les chargements, il y a le bureau Veristas qui est obligé de certifié et
In
chargement
Mali
sur place.
also, we always have a problem with the Bureau Veritas, especially with the Trrc, with the arrival of the new authorities.
La traversée du Sénégal ne pose pas assez de problèmes.
Crossing of Senegal should not be a problem.
Pura Director of Petroleum Mamadou Lamine Sompo Cissé elaborated that several companies are licensed and this is booming the re-export trade of petroleum.
Basically, you just have to be a company registered in the Gambia, but the ownership, there is no restriction per se. And so it's something that we're encouraging as well. For us at Pura, it's more to drive exports out of the Gambia. Of course, they have their own needs from Mali, but the more shipping we have also coming to the Gambia benefits us because we have larger volumes coming in. But there's also throughput fees at the depot and other inherent benefits that we will also get as well. So there are huge benefits in terms of employment, investment for the Gambia. And I hope that many of the issues we will be discussing over the week will also enhance that with our stakeholders.
While the country is blessed with a strategically located seaport and petroleum handling infrastructure, like the machinery depot to be visited by the team, experts want the enhancement of such interventions to the likes of landlocked Mali, which is a vital market of the Gambia's petroleum re-export trade. Modou Bajan, GRTS.
Unemployment remains a development challenge for most countries around the world, especially third world countries. If the attention of the policymakers is refocused on improving the salt mining industry through commercialization, the sector can be a viable avenue for greater employment opportunities and income generation. To find answers to these, our correspondent in the North Bank region, Famar Kanyi, traveled to Jokadu Daslame to look at the possibilities of reviving the sector to improve production. From Kerwan, he prepared in this report. Well, that report will come later in our news. We now take our first break, and sports news is up next. Welcome back. In sports, the Gambia Scorpions have completed their AFCON qualifiers with a narrow 1-0 defeat to DR Congo in Kinshasa. Congo, who failed to qualify from Group D, scored from the penalty spot with Kazadi Kasengu netting the only goal of the game. The Gambia now completed the qualifiers, topping Group D after fellow qualifiers from the Group Gabon were defeated 2-0 by Angola. The Scorpions will now join 23 other teams for the 2022 Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon. Our team in Kinshasa were monitoring developments there and earlier spoke to the head coach Tom Senfe and team captain Omar Colley. Here is an excerpt.
Oh, referee says penalty.
Yeah, never happy if we lose, but we changed 8 players from the starting 11 from the team who won against Angola. And then you know that there will be a different performance. 4 players were not available through injuries and yellow card men. First off, I was not satisfied. I think in the first half only 1 player played up to level, and that was our goalkeeper Sheikh Sibi. What's positive that we can see him on this level playing. But second half we did some changes and then we were in control of the game. In the first half we conceded in the last seconds, in the dying seconds, a penalty. I think a soft penalty, I have to see it again. But it happens in football. Second half we come in the game, we score a goal. Referee say offside. I can't judge about it. Also that I have to see. Maybe we could get a penalty for Noah. So I'm disappointed in the first half, but on the other side I learned a lot out of that. I'm also judging players who is ready for AFCON and who not. I'm very satisfied about the second half, the performance, the pressure we put, and the occasions we created. But yeah, I preferred naturally to get the point, but we are also learning. We knew before the game that this would be not a crucial match in qualification. For us, it was most important to try out players. We use every game now to find the perfect 23 for AFCON. So we learned a lot, and we see it as a positive thing.
I mean, it's never easy to play to play away. I mean, moreover, to play against a team like Congo. You know, I mean, we have nothing to win, we have nothing to lose, but still, you know, we came here to win. But unfortunately, we are not able to win. But still, you know, we just take the positive things out of it, and you know, put it in the other games, and you know, try to focus for the, you know, for the next games. I think that's the most important thing. But of course, moreover, and through what I heard is that Angola, they won, and we are still top of the group. I mean, so that's a blessing for us. But still, you know, we need to improve on everything. You know, especially when we play away games and conditions like this. Of course, we have to improve our mentalities.
We have played 45 minutes already. Oh! Referee says penalty.
Meanwhile, the Gambia Football Federation, with support from government on Monday, extended the contract of the National Scorpions coach Tom Simfe for 5 years. The disclosure was made in Congo before logging horns with the Leopards of Congo on their return leg in Group D. Coach Simfe new contract periods covers June 2021 to June 2026. Modlamin Sane was in Congo and picks up the rest of that story.
Gambian football, the Belgian has been rewarded a lengthy contract on a day he celebrates his 40th year birthday.
We think this is the right moment to formally, you know, sign and engage him for another period for him to take us to coming AFCON competitions and the World Cup qualifier. Therefore, the contract will run from June of this year to June to end of May 2026. It's a 5-year contract period. We do have its own, you know, articles and clauses that we all negotiated and agreed on. I think Tom, since we started with him in 2018, really has proven his worth, and I think the whole football family, including the GFF and the government, are satisfied with him, and we have the belief that his continuity gives results, and we feel that we have to give him the opportunity to take the team to the next two AFCON qualifiers, 2023, 2025, and the World Cup qualifiers.
The 5-year extension was a product of the work of the Gambia Football Federation with support from the Gambia government.
These have taken quite a number of consultations, you know, from the initial discussions on the extension and the issue of discussing what should be in the contract, you know, how do we ensure that, you know, the coach continues to do better. And you people have been very collaborative, and of course, we had to give the endorsement based on the realities of the statistics that we see and the performance that we see. So I am happy that today, finally, we are signing this contract, and on a very important day for Tom, because it's his birthday. So yes, we want the boys to win today, so that will be a special gift for him. But this contract, I hope, also give him some form of birthday gift, that the Gambia appreciate what you're doing, and we will definitely go ahead and sign this contract for another 5 years, and we hope that what you have succeeded in doing this year, you will continue to do in the next two AFCONs, and possibly in the 2026 World Cup as well.
Coach Tom Samfit, who signed his first contract in July 2018, completed his first task, securing one of the objectives by the agreement, qualifying the Gambia senior national team to the African Cup of Nations, something that impresses the federation to retain him as coach.
A coach can never do it alone. This is an achievement of a whole team of people, everyone within the federation, the public around us, and most of all, the players, because Gambia has a lot of quality players. The reason I came in 2018 to Gambia was they were in a bad period. They had won one game, competitive game in 5 years. But I was convinced. I saw the players who were available, the future players who would be available, and I felt honored to become coach of Gambia. until today, I feel still honored to become. For me, it's a pleasure, it's an honor to represent the beautiful country, the smiling coast, and I'm the smiling coach of Gambia. But for me, this is a desire. I had in my career, some made wrong decisions, sometimes accepted short-term deals. This is the third time I renew my contract, the second time I renew my contract with Gambia, and it's a very clear decision for stability, but also a decision for ambition. I have dreams as a coach. One of the dreams was qualifying Gambia for AFCON. This is the first step, but the dreams go further. Sit down and relax, that's not in my agenda. I want more, together with the federation, together with ministry, together with my staff and my players.
The Belgian, who is celebrating his 48th-year birthday, will now lead the team to the AFCON 2022 in Cameroon and the World Cup qualifiers. Reporting for Grts News from Kinshasa, DRC, I am Mudulamin Sane.
In the internationals, anti-coup protesters in Myanmar returned to the streets in defense of the junta just 2 days after the bloodiest crackdown since the military took over on February 1st. Meanwhile, international pressure has been mounting up with the service chiefs of dozen countries, including the US and the UK, condemning Saturday's massacre of at least 114 people in the town of Yangon. More in this France 24 report.
Saturday saw Myanmar's worst bloodshed yet since the military takeover, but that didn't stop these protesters from taking to the streets again the following day, renewing calls for the junta to step down. In Yangon, some set up makeshift barricades and armed themselves with arrows and petrol bombs. While this small group of protesters marched peacefully, chanting slogans. Across the country, funerals were held for some of the victims, like this 13-year-old boy. Witnesses saying he was playing in a back street when he was shot by security forces, even though there were no protests. Amnesty International said the uptick in violence requires urgent action, like referring the situation to the International Criminal Court.
Allies of Myanmar, including China and Russia, really need to be pressing for the military to de-escalate and refrain from the use of force. They also, we would hope to see that countries in the Security Council will use their vote to support the people of Myanmar, the civilians who are being gunned down in broad daylight.
According to relief organizations, airstrikes hit an area in Myanmar's southeast on Saturday, killing several people. These photos show villagers sheltering from the alleged attacks, while thousands are reported to have fled to Thailand. Myanmar has been plunged into turmoil since the military took power on February 1st, saying elections won by now ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi were fraudulent.
Two extra tough boats have joined efforts to dislodge the giant container ship wedged in the Suez Canal. An investigation continues on how the ever-going got stuck in an unfamiliar territory that is costing the world over $9 billion in trade losses a day. Around 15% of the world maritime traffic go through the Suez Canal. Progress has been recorded today as service teams reported they were able to dredge sand and move the 400-meter-long ship to a slanting direction. However, hopes are yet to be high as the global supply chain in some countries are about to wane out. More in this report.
To refloat the huge vessel stuck in the Suez Canal could see it freed within days. This, according to the Dutch firm working to dislodge the container ship using a combination of heavy tugboats, dredging and high tides. On Saturday, the chairman of Egypt's Suez Canal Authority said that the stern and the rudder of the ship had started moving on Friday night, but added that he could not lay out a set timetable for freeing the ship. He did, however, shed some light on the cause of the grounding.
It might have been a technical human error, which will be revealed through the investigation. Many errors might be the cause, but we cannot prove anything yet. The only clear cause is that there were strong winds and a sandstorm, but this is not the only one, as others will be revealed during this investigation.
The maritime traffic jam caused by the stranded ship has grown to more than 300 vessels. About 15% of world shipping traffic passes through the canal, and currently the grounding is holding up some $9.6 billion worth of cargo each day between Asia and Europe. If the fresh attempts to refloat the ship are unsuccessful, hundreds of containers will have to be removed from the front of the vessel to lighten it, making it easier to pull free. A small glimmer of hope for global shipping, as renewed efforts to refloat the huge vessel stuck in the Suez Canal could see it freed within days. This, according to the Dutch firm working to dislodge the container ship using a combination of heavy tugboats, dredging and high tides. On Saturday, the chairman of Egypt's Suez Canal Authority said that the stern and the rudder of the ship had started moving on Friday night, but added that he could not lay out a set timetable for freeing the ship. He did, however, shed some light on the cause of the grounding.
It might have been a technical human error, which will be revealed through the investigation. Many errors might be the cause, but we cannot yet. The only clear cause is that there were strong winds and a sandstorm, but this is not the only one, as others will be revealed during this investigation.
The maritime traffic jam caused by the stranded ship has grown to more than 300 vessels. About 15% of world shipping traffic passes through the canal, and currently the grounding is holding up some $9.6 billion worth of cargo each day between Asia and Europe. If the fresh attempts to refloat the ship are unsuccessful, hundreds of containers will have to be removed from the front of the vessel to lighten it, making it easier to pull free.
Still in the internationals, scientists in France are making their annual scientific fundraising campaign with this year's effort raising against time for the discovery of HIV vaccine. Researchers are making considerable strides to find the cure for the virus, which was first isolated in 1983 by French researchers. The increasing hope amongst the global scientific community is based on the revolutionary technology used to develop COVID-19 vaccine, which scientists say can be used to provide a solution for the deadly virus that have killed over 32 million since its discovery in 1959 in Congo.
Of two viruses that scientists are battling to bring under control. On the left, coronavirus. On the right, HIV. But why have researchers found a vaccine for one and not the other? The answer lies in the proteins that allow each virus to thwart the body's immune system.
Ils ont développé des manteaux de protection pour en gros passer de façon anonyme. Donc pour SARS-CoV, celui-ci mute assez peu. Pour HIV, c'est clair que le virus mute tellement qu'en fait une stratégie est vraiment extrêmement difficile.
The HIV virus mutates inside every person it infects, making it harder to target because it's constantly changing, a riddle that Bernard Verrier has been trying to solve for the past 3 decades. After years of fruitless efforts, could messenger RNA, used to develop a COVID-19 vaccine, provide the answer?
Vous allez voir que c'est très simple, c'est tout automatisé, et il nous faut juste une toute petite machine.
The machine produces the RNA vaccines that transmit information the body needs to arm itself against infection.
On a produit notre vecteur pour transporter les ARN messagers.
For years, many thought using this kind of technology to create vaccines would come to nothing, but that was before the coronavirus pandemic.
On va pouvoir tester des hypothèses très farfelues, très innovantes qu'on ne pouvait pas tester avant. Et en plus, on va avoir des financements parce que personne n'y croyait.
One of the theories being worked on includes a cocktail of vaccines using messenger RNA. Whichever idea comes out on top, there's hope that a HIV vaccine is within reach.
A recap of our top stories before we end this edition of GRTS News. Government begins its COVID-19 vaccination program, inoculating the elderly and vulnerable groups across vaccination centers in the country. The first ordinary session of Parliament in the 2021 legislative year on Monday continued with Justice Minister tabling the 2021 election bill before deputies. The state wraps up its cross-examination in the ongoing alleged murder trial involving the former junta member Yankuba Toure. In sports, the Gambia Football Federation, with support from government, extends the contract of the National Scorpions coach Tom Sinfi for an additional 5 years. In the internationals, global pressure mounts on Miami's junta with service chiefs of dozen countries, including the US and the UK, condemning Saturday's massacre of at least 114 people in the town of Yangon. Well, that was all in this edition of the Weekday News. From me and the rest of the team, we thank you for watching and do enjoy the rest of our programs.
I believe maybe Mrs. Sabali had handled that case. There was another case anyway, but his time was wasted because he was going up and down court, and he would have run, the term would have run out.
You also mentioned the Lansana Jobate case. The offense of broadcasting without license.
Yes, that was another, Yes, broadcasting without license. This was just a ridiculous case against him. A ridiculous case. Which would virtually convict anybody. We all use Skype. Right now we use WhatsApp. I believe the facts of that case were that he attended a political rally. I think he was into communications and etc. And he was streaming, if that is the right word, via Skype what was happening at the rally. And he was charged, arrested, charged, convicted, and sentenced to a fine which he had to pay pending his appeal. He was defended by my senior, Mr. Dabo, but after his troubles, I took over and I did the appeal, and he was overturned, but he was overturned in 2017. Mr. Dabo nak moko jëlone waye nak mu jégi ndek ay jaf jaf man ma jël ko ci loxom def d'appel bi
after 8 years.
I can't remember the number of years, but I know that
the original case, the case started. Okay.
The appeal went on for ages, but I'm not sure it's quite 8 years, but it was a few years.
Yes, I made a mistake in my citation of the year.
No, I didn't.
Okay, no, I made the mistake in the citation.
Yeah. It was a few years because the appeal takes time. I conducted the appeal and he was acquitted and discharged, but he had already paid the fine, so perhaps we should try to recover that.
Well, that is a case that would make all of us guilty.
All of us guilty.
Of a crime.
All of us guilty. And it's cases like that you cannot not blame the prosecution. In helping realize that conviction. Because a lot of these cases should not have made their way to court. But they did, causing enormous strife to the accused persons, and some of them were not granted bail and they had to serve out. They had to stay in jail until the end of their cases. It was a great deal of injustice.
And there is another law that was used against political opponents.
Benen façon loi bo xamné tam tek nañ ko ci ñi nga xamné ñoy opposition bi ci wali politique.
The holding processions without permits.
Yes.
Moy né dal ñu ngi def ay génn té amuñ permit.
What's your experience dealing with such cases?
Façon case yoyu nak yow nako ñoo ci daan def.
Yes, my first experience was with Uncle Femi Peters, late, may his soul rest in peace.
Uncle Femi Peters,
and he was convicted and imprisoned. And his appeal suffered a lot of delays. And he served out the sentence and came out. I remember once, because I knew him well, friend of the family. His appeal came up in court, and I said to him, Uncle Femi, I think I hear that the president is going to pardon you. He was coming from mile 2 to attend the appeal. He said to me, I don't want it. I said, Uncle Boy, it's to go out. And you know, he said, I don't want it. In fact, I will stay in there and complete my sentence. That was how defiant he was. Yes. Yes, and also in the 2016, of course, that one, groups of cases. You had the Solo Sanding group of almost 20 people, similar with the state and the Solo Sanding group was Lamin Sonko and others. Then you had the Hussein Udabo, you had the Motsar, and then you had the other group of protesters, and they were all opposition people. So these are the sort of the cases that definitely lawyers battled with.
How would you describe the relationship between the private bar and the judiciary, especially when it came to some of these cases in which Yaya Jammeh had an interest in?
Lo muna wax nak ci digënté ñi nga xamné ñoy lawyer taxawal seen bopp ak ci wàlli attekat yi surtout nak ci case yi nga xamné Yaya Jammeh moom am na ci ité lool.
In those cases we had confrontation regular with them.
Ci yooyu nag dañ daan am ay dingatante yu bari.
You had instances when lawyers walked out of court.
Léegi dañ ci am ci jamono boo xam ne lawyer dana gedd court.
Judges parading insults at lawyers. It happened in some cases. I remember Honorable Justice Paul and my Fati once had, and also with Mr. Boy Ture.
Justice Paul and Honorable Mai Fati.
A lot of provocation.
What would the General Legal Counsel do with regards to that? Judge and counsel insulting one another.
Léegi nag mbootaay àttekat yi lan lañ dee def ci loolu su fekkee ne lawyer yi ak àttekat yi amoon na ay jàppante yoo xam ne dox na seen diggante.
I think if the matter was brought to the General Legal Counsel, it would have dealt with it. I don't have any personal knowledge, but I do know that as the bar, we, as Mr. Tambadou said yesterday, we had resolved on a few occasions to boycott certain judges' court.
Comme ni ko Mr. Tambadou waxee woon démb rek léegi am na ñoon ni ñu ko daan faje suñu mer rek moo nekkoon ñu gedd nag yenn code yu bari yenn magistrate.
Which judges in particular could you recall?
Yenn judges nga mun a fàttaliku yoo xam ne geddoon nañ.
I remember Honorable Justice Paul's court.
Fàttaliku naa Justice Paul courtam.
Trying to think of another. Sure, there was another one. The lawyers walked out again. We withdrew from these cases, the 2016 cases.
Lawyer dañ liggéey na ci code yi ci case yi lu mel ni 2016.
For similar reasons as the ones I mentioned in the GPU case many years ago.
Yu mel nii rek li nga xam ne noonu laa fi wane ci case yi GPU ay at yu bari ci gannaaw.
I believe it was Justice Dada who convicted. That was one of the cases.
Yaakaar naa Justice Dada bokk na ci ñi nga xam ne ni ki nga xam ne moo tëjoon nag.
It was made impossible for defense counsel to continue to be in that trial.
Jafe woon na nag pour lawyer yi nga xam ne ñoo leen doon taxawal continuer ci layo boobu.
And they all also didn't participate in that trial, and so paved the way for the judge to do exactly what she wanted.
Tamit nag nekkuñu woon nag di continuer bu ko defee nag may nag judge bi mu bugg a def li mu bëggoon a def.
And after all these hurdles, defense lawyers are able to make some good headway. We understand oftentimes the government refused to implement orders that were made against it. What do you say to that?
Ak yu bari yëpp nga xam ne mu ngi doon am léegi-léegi nag ñi nga xam ne ñoo di nguur gi dinañ daan bañ dogal atte yi nga xam ne moom lañ atte loo mun a wax ci loolu.
Refusal to comply with orders.
Oh, God. That was very frequent. From the grant of bail, sometimes even after bail has been granted, they would refuse to. Citing one reason or another. Mainly the police and the NIA, in fact, also, and the prisons.
Give us examples of a case.
I don't want to go back to my senior's case, but there's one there.
And who would that be? Just for the
Mariam Denton.
Mariam Denton.
And which
mostly what they would do is they would stall and eventually release. And the 2016 protesters.
2016 protesters in the Nyaktukadioy.
We have heard of Baba Job's case,
oh, yes.
who had completed his term and still they wouldn't release him.
Yes, I was not his counsel, but I remember reading in the papers, it was being covered in the papers that his time was up but he wasn't released.
In a few words or phrases, how would you describe Yahya Jammeh's handling of the third arm of the government, of the third arm in the state, the judiciary? How would you describe Yahya Jammeh's separation of powers and his relationship with the judiciary?
Kaddu yu gàtta naka nga mun a wax ne Yaya Jammeh noonu la mel ci anam yi nga xam ne noonu la daan jëflante ak ñetteeli banxaas bi nga xam ne moom la réew mi doon doxee muy bunti àtte bi jokkoo Yaya Jammeh ak ñoom naka la meloon ci sa gis-gis.
He certainly ensured that there was no separation of powers between the executive and the judiciary.
Lim njëkk a gis moo nekk ni daal amul benn wecce wala boog séddoo.
He interfered with the judiciary, with judges.
That's
my belief.
Thank you very much. I have no further questions. Thank you for being so helpful.
Thank you very much, Council, and thank you, Madam Chairman, for a very brilliant testimony.
Jërëjëf Council, jërëjëf Madam Cham ci seede yu am solo yi nga xam ne def nga ko fii nii.
In your last response to Council, some question, would you say that the judiciary did not have any alternative at all to all the shenanigans that Jammeh was going through? I would have thought that they could do something about it. I wouldn't tell you what they could have done to resist the actions of President Jammeh. But would that be a position that the judiciary didn't have any alternative but to comply?
Ci tontu yi mujj yi nga xam ne moom nga tontu council bi lim la doon laaj li ma la bëgg a laaj mooy ndax ñi nga xam ne ñoo nekk ci wàlli atte bi amuñ woon beneen pexe boo xam ne mënoon nañ koo jël ci président Jammeh lim daan dugal gémmiñam saa yu nekk rek ci atte yi ñoo def ndax amuñ woon benn pexe lu dul rek ànd ak moom ci lim bugga.
I suppose I can't speak for them, but I do know that for those who were involved, those that he dealt with, they were fine. Those who were doing his bidding.
The
others, I can say, turned a blind eye. I didn't see any solidarity between them, as long as what I saw was each for themselves. And mostly the Gambian judges were not handling these cases. They went on with what they doing their job with what cases came before them.
dañ daan continuer di def case yi nga xam ne ni ñoom lañ daan tëddal seen ron.
And while the others carried on doing the bidding.
waaw ñeneen ñi nag continuer rek di def nag li nga xam ne ni moom la li nguur gi soxla.
That is one of the things I wanted to speak about in my final statements. That we need to be a collective.
ci suma kàddu yu mujj.
We need to be a collective. If you're only going to deal with what affects you.
dañ war a jàppalante rek bu fekkee ne yow yaa ngi jëflante li nga xam ne nii mooy sa wàll.
What affects your colleague might affect you tomorrow.
li nga xam ne ni dal na sa morom mën na laa dal ëllëg.
So, but basically, I don't know what they could have done, but each was for themselves. And I know that many of the Gambian judges didn't even want these cases coming near them. And were relieved that they were given to non-Gambians. Because they may not be able to resist, they may not have been able to resist. That's just my opinion because I've spoken to some of them.
Splendid. Hold on to your points. I want to hear a lot from you during your final remarks. Commissioners, if you have any questions, please indicate. Commissioner Carr, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chairman.
Chairman.
I should move a bit so that I can communicate with the witness properly. Thank you, Ms. Cham, for your testimony before this commission.
Mrs. Cham, commission bi.
And for the brilliant work you have done for your clients. I have my question is regarding the treatment of women. How do you think women's issues are generally treated, or were generally treated during the period under view?
Naka nga gisee nag jigéen ñi naka lañ daan jëfalante ci seeni mbir ci jamono ji nga xam ne ni moom la ñoo waxtaanee nii.
Well, I having been in the fight for the promotion and protection of women and children's rights.
nga xam ne noonu laa daan yaxantoo lu aju ci wàlli kaaraange ak jigéen ñi ak xale yi.
I was also the former president of FLAG, Female Lawyers Association. We worked a lot with government, the ministry, the Office of the Vice President and Minister for Women's Affairs.
Vice President that was
Dr. Aissatou Njie Sedi. For the promotion and protection of these rights. So I can say that most of the legal framework had been put in place, such as the Children's Act 2005, Women's Act 2010, Sexual Offences Act, Domestic Violence Act in 2016, which is a huge step. And then it came to implementation. Because you can have beautiful laws, and if you don't implement them, they're of no use to the people. So a lot of sensitization had been done, particularly on the sexual violence, which repealed the provisions in the criminal code and put all the sexual offenses together. But more needs to be done. I was very shocked to hear the testimony of some of the witnesses before this commission.
ama naa naqar lool ak mbetteel ci bi nga xamee dégg naa seede yi nga xam ne ni am na fii ci kanam commission bi.
Sexual violations of their rights.
ci loo xam ne ni nag xëtt nañ seen yelleef ci mbir mi sëy.
etc.
mooy daanu ci kaw jigéen forcé ko sëy neex na
presidency allegations.
ak itamit ci tuuma yi nga xam ne ni ñu ko teg nag ci buntu présidence.
But the problem we have in this area.
waaye nag fan jafe-jafe bi ñu am ci fan.
as well as in domestic violence.
ak itamit sax fi yi nga xam ne am ci kër yi.
is that people hesitate to come forward.
nit ñi dañuy bañ a ñëw di feeñal seen bopp.
That's why I was very, very happy and I would encourage women to come forward.
li moo tax ma kontaanoon trop te itamit nag xirtu itamit ne pour jigéen ñi ñëw.
when these rights, these human rights that they are violated.
ci jamono bi nga xamee ne seen yelleef yi.
More work needs to be done because if the cases don't come to us.
kon nag liggéey bu bari lañ war a def ndax bu fekkee ne mbir yi ñëw ci ñun.
we cannot help.
duñ ci mën a am benn dimbal.
I wonder, I mean, I almost understand why the persons who gave evidence before the commission, I believe Tufa and others, didn't come to us at the time it happened.
jaaxle naa nag ñi nga xam ne ñëw nañ fii teel di fi wax ay seeni sende.
But I understand. I understand.
waaye nag am na dalin déggin boo xam ne nii.
So implementation of it, enjoyment of the rights.
doxal nag loolu ak jëriñoo ci ba.
need to begin with awareness raising so that women and society will stop seeing these acts as something that should be hidden under the carpet.
dafay doore rek ci anam gi nga xam ne mooy ñun la ñu ubbee xeli nit ñi leen pour nag lii duñ ko teg rek ci suuf.
or just hushed up is a family affair.
waaye rek dal di ko muxutoo rek ne daal mbiri kër ñu neen la.
because many women are suffering in silence.
ndax am na jigéen yu bari tey ñu ngi torox ci kaw.
many children are suffering in silence.
am na xale yu bari yoo xam ne tamit ñu ngi sonn ci lii te ne dañ ko noppee rek.
and a lot more work needs to be done.
te lu bari nag war nañ koo def.
But I want to say that they should not be ashamed to come forward.
waaye nag dama war a wax rek ne waruñoo am gàcce wala ñu rus ne pour ñu wax ko.
The alleged perpetrators should be ashamed.
ñi nga xam ne nii ñoom ñoo def ñaawteef yooyu ñoom ñoo war a am gàcce.
But a lot has been in terms of other rights, such as equitable ownership of properties and things like that. Since we're talking about human rights, I restrict it to the ones concerned.
Thank you again, once again.
Thank you. Yes, Imam Yalo, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chair. Witness, I would like to first of all congratulate you for all the good work you have done for women, children, and men in this country.
seede bi man dama la bëgg njëkk a ndokkale ci liggéey bu am solo bi nga xam ne defal nga ko jigéen ñi ak gune yi ak góor ñi sax ci biir réew mi fii.
Keep it up is a worthy task.
la ne góorgóorlu bu baax sas bu rëy la.
I want you to clarify one point for me.
dafa am nag lu ma bëgg nga leeralal ma.
People keep talking about the independence of the three arms of government.
nit ñi daal dañu yàgg di wax ne ñetti banxaas yi nga xam ne moom la réew mi di war a doxee ci ñu ñoo doxee ci seen afiya boppa.
From what we have heard and seen in this commission,
li nga xam ne moom lañ dégg te gis ko fii ci commission bi.
the misuse of power.
ni nga xam ne nit ki noonu laa jaayee doole ci wàlli palaasam.
From the executive.
ñi ko dalee ba ca kaw.
The armed forces of the country.
ñi nga xam ne ñoo di soldaar yi ci réew mi.
Do you think that it is ever possible?
ndax foog nga ne nag dina musa am.
to have an independent judiciary.
pour nag ñu amee atte boo xam ne dañ koo def ci seen coobare boppa.
And of what use would that be to the nation?
loolu lan la mun a defal réew mi.
Thank you.
jërëjëf.
Thank you, Imam, for that question.
jërëjëf Imam ci koy laajte boobu.
I want to say that at least post Jammeh era.
dama bëgg a wax rek ne gannaaw nguuri Jammeh.
we are very confident that we are on the way back to building.
daal dinaa ñu am yaakaar ne daal ñu ngi delluwaat ci ni nga xamee daal noonu lañ taxawaayee suñu.
I personally
man ci suma bopp.
have not seen anything that should make me worry about the way the judiciary is being run right now.
amuma dara loo xam ne ni jaaxal na ma nag ci anam gi nga xam ne nii bunti attekaay bi noonu lañ koy doxalee ci.
The judges I'm appearing before are conducting themselves the way as honorable as they are.
And
that is trying to maintain their independence. So that the judgments they deliver reflect nothing but their knowledge of the law and guidance by the ethics of their profession. Yes, I can see why Imam is worried from what we came out of. We now have almost 100% Gambian lawyers, judges and magistrates on the bench. And I believe one of my colleagues said it. Being Gambian on the bench is very important. You care about what happens to your people and the country. Because anything you do, you will face people in this country. You will empathize. You will understand the cultures. You work better. And we have seen that already in many judgments that have been delivered since 2017, and that we can see a great deal of independence. And we hope it will continue. We hope we will never get to a point again where the executive, the president, or whoever is acting on his behalf will pick up the phone just like that and order for prosecutions and convictions and imprisonments. Yeah. Thank you. Does that answer all of it? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cham. If you have any concluding remarks, I think you indicated you might, please proceed to make them now.
Yes, I'll just make them briefly. First of all, Mr. Chair, I want to appreciate the Commission, yourself and your fellow commissioners, my senior lead counsel and his team, and your entire staff. This is the second time I'm coming here and I've been accorded the due respect and been really taken care of. I want to appreciate your sterling work. Without this commission, most of what we know will not be known, particularly by the ordinary citizens of this country. There were only speculations. And people dismissed, such as lawyers like ourselves and victims. Dismissed as opposition, or you don't like the government. But much of what we had said and experienced has been shown to be true by this testimonies before this commission. I just want to say that I urge this government to implement every single recommendation that will come out of this commission. Because you are the best, in the best position to make recommendations, having heard all the evidence that you have over the past few years. It is the last hope for many victims. And their fear every day is that it is all going to come to naught. Zero. I don't believe that. But I can understand them. So We are relying on this commission to make the appropriate recommendations. We know you will. To ensure that never again Gambians will be put through what we have been. Now, I also want to talk about the way forward a bit. I will not repeat everything that has been said by my colleagues, but I want to buttress the need for nation building. It is not just the government that needs to build the nation. It begins with us, the Gambians, the people living in this country. And we have to think, as I said, Chairman, as a collective, as one body. If everybody's out for their interest and what is good for them alone, we will never build this nation. We need to do it together. We need to do it honestly, sincerely, and we have to have each other's back so that we are happy for our fellow Gambians when they have something new, good, and we are sad for them when they don't. I say that because we had been divided. And I am ashamed to say that some people used to be happy that other people are suffering as victims of Yaya Jammeh. But we saw that in the end, he had touched everybody. So we should be very careful and condemn where we need to condemn, regardless of who the offender is, whether our relative, whether our friend, whether the same tribe. We should condemn what is wrong, no matter who it happens to. That way, when it happens to us, other people will condemn it. I heard of a short story by one of Jammeh's former people, former friends or associates or whatever, when he was in mile 2, and he got all his rights violated. And he said to one of my clients, my client explained it to me that, this is what the lawyers meant when they talk about human rights. So I leave that at that. And so we need to build strong institutions. An institution like National Agency for Legal Aid. You'll permit me to just say a little bit about this institution. This institution was set up by the government in 2008. Just as a symbol, I think. Because we had to report outside the Gambia on what we have done to bring access to justice to indigent people. But it is not resourced at all. And so it could not benefit adequately those who most needed it, particularly during this time. Because it's subvented by government through the Ministry of Justice. Technically speaking, we're all lawyers, but they are adversaries. So how well the legal aid agency does depends on how much money it gets from Ministry of Justice, who in turn gets from the government. Despite the fact that the Legal Aid Act says that it should have its own independent budget. It still has not. It gets given, I mean, I'm not blaming Ministry of Justice, they get given a bulk amount because Nala is still sort of under them. And Nala gets given any amount, whether it's enough or not. Some progress has been made in the last year or two, but more needs to be done. Because this institution is the hope for many Gambians who would come would be affected by the law, and they would need representation, and they cannot afford. So it's important that I say that. And also, I want to recognize institutions that have accompanied human rights defenders in this country. Many have, but just to single out a few. Institutions such as Amnesty International. Their call for action did a lot for victims, give hope. Did a lot to put pressure on the government to account for people that they had in their custody. And they did a lot to build lawyers' capacity. A lot of technical assistance. And the same goes for ICJ, International Commission of Jurists. The Kenyan section and the Swedish section. I have had the honor of working with them. Very, very difficult and trying times. And they have helped in terms of giving very much needed technical assistance. And I would like to thank everybody else and to encourage my fellow human rights defenders to continue the work, because these are fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution, which everybody should enjoy. And to the victims, I say take heart. For the survivors, let's keep hope that for this period, for these violations, we have entrusted our hopes and our dreams on this commission coming out with recommendations that will seek to put right all that was wrong. I thank everybody here. I thank my family and colleagues for all the support over the years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Cham, for your testimony again. The concluding remarks are very, very, very good, excellent, and we are going to take careful note of these points that you raised. Our constituent instrument, the TRRC Act 2017 mandates us, among other things, to create a historical record of abuses and violations that occurred in this country for 22 years. In order to prevent reading the portion of the Act that refers to recommendations and other things, in order to prevent a repeat of the violations and abuses suffered, by making recommendations for the establishment of appropriate preventive mechanisms.
mooy nag bokk na ci di ràññee nag pour ñu teg ay yenn anam yoo xam ne nii danañ ko mun di musloo ci façon yu mel nii.
Including, and I'm putting emphasis on this one,
tey maa ngi gën a dëgëral di bokk ci tamit ne.
institutional and legal reforms.
di wécceeku yoo xam ne ne ànd naag yoon ci buntu liggéeykaay yi.
We are going to carry out this mandate
danañu dox nag ci sas woowu.
without any prevarications.
te duñ ci seet nag dara loo xam ne nii mu ngi jëm ci wàlli gàllankoor.
And we are determined to see our mantra never again taken to its conclusion.
te itamit am nañu pour gis ne itamit lii nga xam ne mooy suñu bàkku ne never again ne bu mu fi amaat mu dox.
Thank you for your wise words.
gërëm nañ la bu baax ci sa kàddu yu sell yi.
And your challenge also to all Gambians.
ak itamit nag li nga sas doomi Gambien yëpp.
And thank you again for your testimony.
jërëjëfaat rek ci say kàddu ni nga ko fi teewale.
We appreciate it very much.
doyloo nañ ko bu baax a baax.
Council, you have any procedural matters to raise before we close?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have this document from Ms. Cham, the list of compliant or / mercenary judges. If accepted, it should be Exhibit 215.
The request is granted, Council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, Commissioner Kai, you want the floor? Sorry. What's your request now?
Mr. Chair, I have another witness waiting for after lunch.
Oh, I see. Okay, good.
Thank you very much.
So we're not closing the date at this moment.
I cannot disappoint the Chair.
Bravo. That's great. Thank you again very much. And so we will take a 1-hour lunch break and come back at 3:30. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much indeed.